Galbrena's full multipliers, best teams, and weapon tier list are finally out, and with this, it's time to analyze how good Galbrena actually is compared to the current so-called meta DPS. We'll cover her best teams with both premium options and free-to-play alternatives, along with her best weapons and rotations, so you can choose the right setup for your account. Let's start with her basic rotation and build, which we also used for the calculations. Her rotation goes like this. You open with her intro into Resonance Liberation, then tap Echo skill followed by basic attacks until the bar is full. From there, use her enhanced skill and spam basic attacks until her Forte circuit is charged. The key point here is that the fourth stage of her basic attack is considered Echo skill damage, and this alone contributes nearly 70% of her total output, followed by her Liberation damage. And if you're left with no pulls, check out Loot Bar. They are currently offering extra discounts for version 2.6, up to 21% cheaper than the in-game price. Loot Bar is completely safe with excellent Trustpilot reviews and is one of the best ways to top up for Wuthering Waves. Just check the top link in the description, and new users also get an extra 10% off when signing up. For builds right now, the best setup is a 3-piece Law of Harmony with 2-piece Molten Rift or any 2-piece ATK set. For substats, prioritize crit first, then ATK with heavy attack damage bonus as a solid secondary. For talents, prioritize her Forte first, then Liberation, normal attack, and finally her skill.
Looking at her playstyle, her best team right now is with Frolova and Qiuyuan, but surprisingly, her second best team is actually Mono Fusion, which brings us to an interesting question. Is she actually a better option than Changli? When we compare the two, Changli's personal damage is lower compared to Galbrena. Being a new unit, Galbrena's multipliers are way higher, but Changli does provide plus 25% Liberation DMG and plus 20% Fusion DMG for Lupa compared to Galbrena, who provides no buffs. Still, even after factoring in the loss of those buffs from Lupa, Galbrena's overall team damage is much higher. This makes the Mono Fusion team with Galbrena stronger than with Changli, even though the synergy isn't as tight. Next, let's look at Galbrena's other best-in-slot teams, which revolve around Qiuyuan and Lupa. Surprisingly, this setup is actually weaker than Brant plus Lupa, which is unexpected, especially considering the massive buffs Qiuyuan provides. Here's what's really happening. Even though Qiuyuan is positioned as a buffer / sub DPS, his personal damage is nowhere close to Brant's. Brant contributes over 600k personal damage compared to Qiuyuan's 150k. To put this in perspective, if you remove Lupa, since she's common to both setups, Brant plus Galbrena contributes around 1.45 million combined damage, while Qiuyuan plus Galbrena only contributes 1.35 million, even though Galbrena herself deals over 12 million damage in that setup. Qiuyuan only adds 150k. This makes him a huge disappointment overall, even though he's technically Galbrena's best buffer. So even if you're thinking of skipping Galbrena because you don't have Qiuyuan, you can see that Brant is actually a better overall partner for her, which is a good enough reason not to skip her. Now, let's talk about other team options for players who don't have either Brant or Lupa. In this case, your best in slot would be with Shorekeeper and Qiuyuan. In this setup, Galbrena's overall damage will be a little lower than with Lupa, but still very close. For a full free-to-play setup, we see something like Mortify and Shorekeeper. This drops her total damage by about 50% compared to her Mono Fusion teams, but it's still serviceable. If you're planning to get Galbrena, it's very important to pair her with at least one premium support, whether that's Lupa, Brant, Qiuyuan, or even Frolova, who can add a lot of personal damage. Mortify, on the other hand, isn't as good as he looks on paper. When we compare him to someone like Qiuyuan or even Lupa, his buffs are much weaker. This is because Galbrena's heavy attack damage, relative to her total damage, is much lower than it appears. Mortify only buffs heavy attacks, and his 20% ATK from S6 is a nice bonus, but overall it just makes him a somewhat viable option rather than a strong one. So after seeing her damage, let's look at how good her signature weapon is compared to some other options. Her signature is by far her best in slot option, followed by the Last Stance and Static Mist. The second best weapon is nearly 20% worse than her signature, and the 4-star option, the new BP weapon, Solar Flare, is nearly 30% weaker. So yes, she relies heavily on her signature weapon, or at least a 5-star option for her maximum damage output. This means she's not really free-to-play friendly if we consider her weapon requirements. Now, coming to her premium team with Frolova and Qiuyuan, it's actually not too much higher than Monofusion with Lupa, but thanks to Frolova's damage, it becomes her best in slot team. Frolova's damage is massively higher compared to Lupa thanks to Qiuyuan and Galbrena's kit, and also because her outro skill buffs Qiuyuan, which is nearly the same as Lupa's buff for Qiuyuan. So yes, Qiuyuan is a better option when you pair with Frolova, but Brant ends up being a better option when you pair Galbrena with Lupa or any general support like Shorekeeper. If you have Brant, you might want to skip Qiuyuan, but keep in mind Brant doesn't work with Frolova. He neither buffs Frolova like Qiuyuan does, nor can he utilize Frolova's outro skill. So if you want to maximize Frolova, then Qiuyuan is the better option. And finally, keep in mind these calculations are still weeks before the release of version 2.7 banners, so everything is subject to change in future beta tests.
Now let's talk about the overall pull value of Galbrena, including for those who already have a Monofusion setup or who just need a new DPS. For this, we need to compare her damage output to the most recent characters like Augusta and Cartethyia. Right now, Cartethia's premium team is still the strongest team in the entire game. But Augusta and Galbrena sit on the same level, with Zani's team also being right there as the 4th best option. So overall, Galbrena's premium team and her Monofusion team are both top-tier comps, giving you enough flexibility even if you don't have Qiuyuan. You can still run her with Brant or Lupa. The good thing about Galbrena is that she's not restricted anywhere, unlike Zani who needs Phoebe to reach her ceiling. Galbrena's kit is self-sufficient, and while Qiuyuan is her best buffer, he's more of an external luxury that can be replaced rather than a hard requirement. In the most recent beta test, Qiuyuan actually received some nerfs as a buffer, but at the same time, his personal damage was buffed. And honestly, it looks like he may receive even more changes in the upcoming beta phases. So stay tuned, I'll be updating you as soon as those adjustments drop. If you want a full kit breakdown for both Galbrena and Qiuyuan, or to check out the last beta changes, I already made dedicated videos, so make sure to watch those as well. Overall though, Galbrena is not a must-pull like Cartethyia, but she's definitely not a bad pull either. She has a clear position in the current top teams, both premium and Monofusion, and provides strong flexibility. The only real weakness she has is in her weapon options. She gets a massive damage boost from her signature, making it one of the most valuable DPS signatures in the entire game. And that makes sense, since pistols currently have very few 5-star options. So yes, we've gone over her teams, compared her to other units, and looked at her overall value. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. And don't forget to participate in the giveaway. Full details are in the description.